Hello everyone and welcome to Ohio Nicole Creates. This week I am creating a fun Father's Day card for my father-in-law. My father-in-law wears dentures and it's a little bit of a family joke that he teases me about. So I wanted to play with that idea and make a fun toothless card for him. So I started off with a sketch and just kind of playing around because I wanted to make this an interactive card with a mouthpiece that would open and close. So I always find it's best to just kind of sketch on a piece of scrap paper and try ideas out before moving to the more quality paper, of course, just to see what will work and to see what ideas come to mind. So once I was happy with my sketch, I used a Prima marker to just sketch it back onto the watercolor paper and to start painting. My father-in-law is a very fun, caring personality, so I wanted to use colors and the kind of style of like a fun caricature or a fun cartoon. So in order to accomplish that, I wanted to layer the paints onto the picture to give it that really nice kind of storybook cartoony style. And I did that by using my Prima Confections palette to get a nice skin color here. I believe that this is actually the peach cobbler color, which has a little bit more of a yellow tint to it, but works really, really well for that lighter flesh range of colors. So in order to build up the color, I just complete several different washes so that I can add layers of color to give it a little bit more shading and to offer some highlights. As I moved into the painting, I still was playing around with my sketch idea a little bit, so you can see me here drawing and erasing a flower in a pocket, but I decided to just go with a solid suit. Here I'm using the charcoal or the black color from the Confections palette and then painting a nice red tie to go with the suit. And I found that it was necessary to give quite a few washes of the black specifically to get a nice saturated color. Again, just kind of deciding whether or not I wanted stripes and playing around with some different ideas, but I decided for this card, I really wanted the focus to be the mouth mechanism, so simpler was better. This was a really fun idea to move forward on. Sometimes I'll spend quite a bit of time thinking about the card and thinking about the recipient and playing with how I want the card to go together, but this process worked very well for me and I was able to finish this card in an evening. And so I was very, very pleased with how it came out overall. As I continue to work on the different pieces, I just go ahead and hit it with a heat gun between layers so that I can see what the finished look will look like. Oftentimes with the pan watercolors, and I know I've mentioned this in previous videos, but oftentimes they will dry significantly lighter than they are when they're wet. So it's always nice to come back and take a second look just to make sure you're getting the effect that you like. And also when layering watercolors and building those different layers of pigment, letting the layers dry between applications can be really helpful in building shadows, in helping to define highlights and that kind of thing. So once I'm happy with the overall look of the caricature, I go ahead and add in a blue background. And there's really no significant reason for the blue other than I thought it would bring out the painting in the foreground and just kind of make that skin color and the black of the suit pop. Again, this was all about having fun and just kind of playing with the idea My father-in-law loves to tease, so it was a fun way to kind of celebrate that part of his nature. Once I'm happy with the overall look of the card, I can start working on the mouth mechanism, but it was important to kind of just make sure everything was shaded the way that I liked and had the amount of dimension that I liked before going ahead and cutting in to the card. I did widen the suit up a little bit. The collar looked a little bit wide to me, and so it's not necessarily perfect, but caricature is all about playing with that idea and having fun. So I felt that it was close enough to his likeness for this card to be a fun celebration of his personality. To continue to work on the card, I'm going to start working on the mouth mechanism here, and I actually use the same dimensions that I came up with in the sketch. And I find that when I'm sketching, if I start working on a piece that is about the same size the finished piece will be, so if I know that I'm creating a card, I try to sketch on a piece of paper the same size as the card, and that just helps so that there's not a translation step with measurements and things in between once you move from the sketch to the final card. So I did play around a little bit with the size just to make sure the mouth was not too wide and as wide as it needed to be. And then once I have that the size that I need, the strip, I just go ahead and I use an X-Acto knife to cut into the card first at the top and the bottom. I'm not very much of a measurer, which is funny because I do a lot of quilting, so I'm much more precise when I do quilting than when I do these kinds of projects. But I did find it was necessary to go back and just make sure that that mouth was wide enough so that the mechanism would slide easily enough in and out. And if anybody's interested in the specific measurements, I can provide those, but otherwise it's really kind of just about measuring your own project and eyeballing. Once I have the strip completed, I just go in and I paint the mouth. And for this mouth, since we're playing with that idea of being toothless and having dentures, I wanted to have nice shiny pink gums and a really fun kind of tongue, so we had that nice gummy smile. So I just used my Prima Confections palette again, and then I used the same red that I used for the tie, which I believe the title of that red is Sour Wood, and it's from the Woodlands Prima Confections palette, and it's just a really nice red, a little bit pink, but a nice red. So I complete the mouth, and then I just want to stick it back in just to make sure it is the right dimension and that when pulling back and forth it will fit nicely within the window. And once I've checked that, what I need to do now is go in and paint the chin. So this way, when the tab is pushed in, it looks like his mouth is shut. And when the tab is pulled out, we will have that nice smile, that nice grin. And it works. So now I just need to finish up with the tab itself. Also, a good tip is that I find that when doing projects like this, if you paint the side of the card, it just gives it a little bit more of a finished look, especially when doing something interactive like this. So I wanted to be sure that the sides of the card were the same color as the actual photo. I place a strip in so that the mechanism cannot be pulled out, so that just kind of stops it from advancing. It gives it a little bit of a blockage, I guess you would say, or a little bit of an obstruction so that it can't be pulled out. And then I use my corners trimmer just to give it that nice oval shape at the bottom, just make it look a little bit more finished. And I write down pull down. To finish the card, I hadn't really decided if I wanted to have it on a standard open or shut card, and I decided that the illustration came out so nicely, and the mechanism really was the star of the show. So I made this into a one panel card by first posting on a red cardstock, and I did use foam tape to pop up that top panel so that it would be easy to slide in and out. And then I finished by adding it onto a second blue card just to give it that nice frame. And it was a very simple card to finish, but I'm hoping that it will give us a lot of laughs and a nice, fun Father's Day memory. So here is my caricature Father's Day card. If you've made Father's Day cards, I would love to see them, love to hear about them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Bye, everyone.